नमो ओं विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस AC भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि गौरी भक्त वृंद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। Today we will be reading chapter 26 from Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. The topic name is Bhaṭṭācārya is converted. Chapter 26 from Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Topic is Bhaṭṭācārya is converted. Yesterday we read 25, the personal and impersonal realization, and today we'll be reading chapter 26. After hearing from everything, after hearing from the definition of personal and impersonalism from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Bhattacharya is converted from impersonalism to personalism. So before we can start, let's pray first, then we will begin together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Naranchaivo Narattamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tatum Jayamudiraye. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। So let's begin. Today's chapter is Bhattacharya is converted. Please listen very carefully. You don't have to read, you have to just listen. I am reading, I am doing hard work on just behalf of you. And after listening, I will ask you a few questions in our question answer group. Then you have to answer properly. So if you don't listen properly, you cannot answer. So please listen very carefully. For the impersonalist and the voidist philosopher, the next world is the world of senselessness, eternity, and bliss. The voidist philosopher wants to establish that ultimate everything is senseless. An impersonalist wants to establish that in the next world there is a simply knowledge without any activity. Simply knowledge without any activity. Thus less intelligent Salvationalists try to carry imperfect knowledge into the sphere of perfect spiritual activity because impersonalists experience material activity as miserable. He wants to establish spiritual life without activity. He wants to establish the spiritual life without activity. He cannot understand the activity of devotional service. Indeed, spiritual activity in devotional service is unintelligent to the Buddhist philosopher and impersonalist. The Vaishnava philosopher know perfectly well that the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality Godhead, can never be impersonal or void, because he possesses innumerable potency. Through his innumerable energy, he can present himself in multiple form and still remain as Supreme Personality Godhead. Thus, despite expanding himself in multiple form and diffusing in innumerable energy, he can maintain his transcendental position. Thus, Lord Chaitanya exposed many defects in the Mayavada philosophy, and although the Bhattacharya tried to establish himself by logic and word jugglery, Lord Chaitanya was able to define himself. Lord Chaitanya was able to define himself from his attack. The Lord established that the Vedic literature is meant for three things: understanding the relationship with the Absolute Supreme Personality Godhead, acting according to that understanding and achieving highest perfection of life, love of Godhead, And anyone who try to prove that the Vedic literature aims at anything else must be a victim of his own imagination. The Lord then quoted some verse from the Purana by which he established that Shankaracharya was ordered to teach Mayavadi philosophy by the Supreme Personality Godhead. He quoted a verse from the Padma Purana, Uttarakhanda, 62.31, in which it is stated that Lord ordered Mahadeva, Lord Shiva, to present some imaginary interpretation of Vedic literature to divide people from the actual purpose of Veda. In this way, try to make them atheist. The Lord said, after that he can be engaged in producing more population. After that, they can be engaged in producing more population. It is also stated in that the Padma Purana Uttarakhanda 25 into 7, the Lord Shiva explained to his wife Parvati that the age of Kali he would come in the form of the Brahmana to preach an imperfect interpretation to the Veda known as Mayavada, which is but a second edition of atheistic Buddhist philosophy. The Bhattacharya was overwhelmed by this explanation of Lord Chaitanya. After hearing Mayavada philosophy explained by Lord Chaitanya, he could not speak. After he had remained silent for some time, Lord Chaitanya said him, My dear Bhattacharya, don't be astonished by his explanation. Please take it from me that devotional service of Supreme Lord is the highest perfection stage of human understanding. Indeed, it is so attractive that even those who are already liberated become devotee by the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Personality Godhead. There are many such conversions in the Vedic literature. For instance, in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.10, the famous Atmarama verse describe how impersonalist sages who are absorbed in self-realization and liberation and liberated from all material attachment become attracted in devotional service by the various activity of Lord Krishna, such as the transcendental quality of the Supreme Personality Godhead. Actually, in pure consciousness, the living entity understands himself as the eternal servant of Supreme Lord. Under the spell of illusion, a person accepts the gross of under the spell of illusion, a person accepts the gross and subtle body as his self. Such a conception is the basis of doctrine of transformation of the spirit to matter. But the part and parcel of the Supreme Lord is not eternally subject to gross and subtle bodily life. The gross and subtle covering do not comprise the living entity eternal form. They can be changed, or the living entity can be freed entirely from material existence, while the living entity is under illusion that he is the body and mind. However, he is certainly transformed in position from the spirit to matter. Mayavadi philosophers, taking advantage of this doctrine of transference, say that the living entity is under the wrong impression when he think himself to be part and parcel of Supreme. They maintain that the living entity is the Supreme Himself. The doctrine cannot be tenable. The Bhattacharya then asked Lord Chaitanya to explain the famous Atparama verse, for he desired to hear from the Lord himself. Lord Chaitanya replied that first of all, Bhattacharya should explain the verse according to his own understanding. Then Lord Chaitanya would explain it. Bhattacharya then began to explain the Atmarama sloka using his method, logic, and the grammar. Thus, he explained the Atmarama sloka is nine different way. Thus he explained the Atmarama sloka in nine different ways. The Lord appreciated his erudite scholarship in explaining the verse and said, My dear Bhattacharya, I know that you are personal manifestation of the learned scholar Brihaspati and can explain any portion of the Shastra nicely. Yet your explanation is more or less based on academic education only. But there is another explanation beside the academic and scholarly one. Then, at the request of Bhattacharya, Lord Chaitanya explained the Atmarama sloka. The word of the verse were analyzed thus: Atmarama cha munaya nirgratya api urukarme kuruvanti ahaitukam bhaktim ityam bhuja gunah ityam bhukta gunah harihi. Thus, verse has already been explained in the connection with the Lord teachings to Sanatan Goswami. Without mentioning the nine explanation of Bhattacharya, Lord Chaitanya explained the verse by analyzing these 11, 11 word. In this way, he explained nine different explanation of the verse. In summary, he said that Supreme Personality Godhead is full of innumerable potency. No one can estimate how many transcendental quality he possesses. His quality are always inconceivable, and all process of self-realization inquire in general way into potency and quality of Supreme Personality Godhead. But the devotee of the Lord immediately accept inconceivable position of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya explained that even great liberated soul like Kumara and Sukdev Goswami were also attracted to the transcendental quality of the Supreme Lord. The Bhattacharya appreciated Lord Chaitanya's explanation and he concluded that Lord Chaitanya was none other Krishna himself. The Bhattacharya then began to deprecate his own position, relating to he had the first considered Lord Chaitanya to be an ordinary human being and therefore committed a great offense. He then fell down at the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya, deprecating himself and requested the Lord to show his causeless mercy to him. The Lord appreciated the humility of the great scholar and therefore exhibited his own form, first with four hands, then with six hands, Sadbhuja. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya then repeatedly fell down, and the Lord lotus feet and composed various prayers to him. He was undoubtedly a great scholar, and after receiving the causeless mercy of the Lord, he was empowered to explain the Lord activity in different way. For instance, he was able to express the benefit of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. It is said that at the time Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya composed a hundred verse in appreciation of the Lord activity, and that those verses were so great that they could not be surprised by even Brihaspati, the greatest learned scholar in the heavenly planet. The Lord was very much pleased to hear these hundred words, and he embraced the Bhattacharya. The Bhattacharya became overwhelmed with ecstasy by the Lord touch, and he practically fell unconscious. He cried, trembled, shivered, and perspired, and sometime he danced and sang and fell at the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. The Bhattacharya brother-in-law Gopinathacharya, the Bhattacharya brother-in-law Gopinathacharya, and the devotee of the Lord were surprised to see Bhattacharya transform into the great devotee. Gopinathacharya then began to thank the Lord. It is by your grace only that Bhattacharya has been transformed from his the stone-like position into such a devotee. Lord Chaitanya replied to Gopinath Acharya that it was due to a devotee favor that stone-like man could be transformed into a mild flower-like devotee. Actually, Gopinath Acharya has sincerely wished that his brother-in-law, the Bhattacharya, would become a devotee of the Lord. He had sincerely desired that the Lord favor of Bhattacharya. He was glad to see that his desire had been fulfilled by Lord Chaitanya. In other words, the devotee of the Lord is more merciful than Lord himself. When the devotee desired to show his mercy to a person, the Lord accept him. By the Lord grace, he become a devotee. Lord Chaitanya pacified the Bhattacharya and asked him to go home. The Bhattacharya again began to praise the Lord and said, "You have descended to deliver all the fallen soul of this material world. That project is not so difficult for you, but you have turned a stone-like man like me into a devotee, and that it is very wonderful indeed." Although I was very expert in logical argument and grammatical explanation of the Veda, I was as hard as a lump of iron, but your influence and temperature was so great that you could melt even the hard piece of iron like me. Lord Chaitanya then returned to his place, and Bhattacharya sent Gopinathacharya to him various kind of prasadam from the Jagannath temple. That next day, Lord went to the temple of Jagannath early in the morning to attend the Mangalarati. The priest in the temple brought him a garland, and the garland from the deity also offered him various kind of prasadam. The Lord was very much pleased to receive them, and He at once went to the house of Bhattacharya, taking the prasadam, flower curtain, to present him. Although it was early in the morning, Bhattacharya understood the Lord had come, was knocking on his door. He at once rose from his bed and began to say, Krishna, Krishna. This was heard by Lord Chaitanya. When Bhattacharya opened the door, he saw the Lord standing there, and he was very much pleased to see him early in the morning, receiving him with all care. Bhattacharya offered him a great seat, and both of them sat together. Lord Chaitanya then offered him the prasadam he had received in the temple of Jagannatha, and the Bhattacharya was glad to receive this prasad from the hand of Lord Chaitanya himself. Indeed, without taking his both without performing his duty or even cleansing his teeth, he immediately began to eat prasadam. In this way, he was freed from the all material contamination. He was freed from all material contamination and attachment. As the Bhattacharya began to eat prasadam, he recited the words of the Padma Purana. There it is stated that when the prasadam is received, it must be eaten immediately. But if it has become very dry or old, or even if it is the bought from the distant place, or even if it has not completed executing its daily duty, since it is enjoyed in the Shastra that prasadam should immediately be taken, there is no restriction of time, place, and atmosphere in order of Supreme Personality Godhead must be followed. There are restrictions one must follow before accepting food from various people, but there is no restriction of accepting prasadam from all kind of people. Prasadam is always transcendental and can be eaten under any condition. Lord Chaitanya was very much pleased to see that Bhattacharya, who had always obeyed the rules and regulations strictly, accept prasadam without following any rules and regulation. Being so pleased, Lord Chaitanya embraced the Bhattacharya and they began to dance transcendental ecstasy. In that ecstasy, Lord Chaitanya exclaimed, My mission in Jagannath Puri is now fulfilled. I have converted a person like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. I shall now be able to attain Vaikuntha without fail. I shall I shall now be able to attain Vaikuntha without fail. The missionary goal of a devotee is to convert simply one person into pure devotee. Then the devotee admission to the spiritual kingdom is guaranteed. The Lord was so much pleased with the Bhattacharya that he began to bless him repeatedly. Dear Bhattacharya, now you are completely pure devotee of Lord Krishna. Krishna is very much pleased with you. For today, you are free from contamination of this material body and the entanglement under the spell of material energy. You are now fit to go back, Godhead, back home. The Lord then cited the verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yasam यशं यशं स एषा यशं स एषा भगवान् दयेत् अनन्तः सर्वत्मन्नश्रितपदो यादि निर्भालिकम् ते दुस्तारम् अतीरन्ति च देवो मयं नैषं ममोहम् इति Mahoham iti dhishwasagalabhakshe. Whoever take complete shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord is favored by the Supreme Lord, who is known to be unlimited. Such a person also receive permission to cross the ocean of new science. However, one who is under the misconception that his material body is himself cannot receive the causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality Godhead. After this incident, Lord Chaitanya returned to his place and Bhattacharya became a pure and faultless devotee. Since he had formally began to great academic scholar, the Bhattacharya could only be converted by the causeless mercy of Lord Chaitanya. From that day forward, Bhattacharya never explained any Vedic literature without explaining devotional service. Gopinath Acharya, his brother-in-law, was very much pleased to see Bhattacharya's condition, and he began to dance in ecstasy and vibrate the transcendental sound Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The next day, after visiting the Jagannath temple early in the morning, the Bhattacharya went to see Lord Chaitanya and he offered his respect respect by falling down before the Lord. He then began to explain his past undesirable behavior. When he asked the Lord to speak something about devotional service, Lord began to elaborately explain the verse in the Brihat Naradiya Purana, beginning Hare Ram. While hearing this explanation, the Bhattacharya became more and more ecstatic. Seeing this condition of his brother-in-law, Gopinathacharya said, "My dear Bhattacharya, previously I had said that when one is favored by the Supreme Lord, he will understand the technique of devotional service. Today I am seeing this fulfilled." The Bhattacharya offered him his due respect and replied, "My dear Gopinath Acharya, it is through your mercy and that I have received the mercy of the Supreme Lord. The mercy of the Supreme Personality Godhead can be obtained by the mercy of pure devotee. Lord Chaitanya's mercy was bestowed upon Bhattacharyas because the Gopinath Acharya endeavor. You are the great devotee of the Lord." The Bhattacharya continued, "And I was simply blinded by the academic education. So it is only through your agency that I have obtained the mercy of the Lord." The Lord Chaitanya was greatly pleased to hear the Bhattacharyas say that the man can achieve the mercy of the Lord through the agency of devotee. The Lord Chaitanya appreciated his word and embraced the Bhattacharya and confirming his statement. The Lord then requested the Bhattacharya to go see Jagannath in the temple, and the Bhattacharya started out for the temple accompanied by Jagadananda and Damodara, two principal associate of Lord Chaitanya. After seeing the after seeing the Jagannath, the Bhattacharya returned home, bring with him much prasadam purchased from the temple. He sent all this prasadam to Lord Chaitanya The through his Brahmana servant. The Bhattacharya also dispatched two verses written on the plum tree leaf and requested Jagadananda to do him a favor by delivering them to the Lord. Thus the Lord Chaitanya was offered a prasadam and verse on the kind of palm leaf. But before reaching to the Lord, Mukunda Datta, who had also undertaken the delivery of the verse, had copied the verse into his book. When Lord Chaitanya read the verse on the palm leaf, he tore into pieces, for he never liked to be praised by anyone. The verse only survived because they had been copied by Mukunda Datta. The verse praised Lord Chaitanya as a supreme original personality of the Godhead, declaring that he had descended as a Lord Chaitanya to preach to the people in general, but detachment, transcendental knowledge, and devotional service. Comparing the Lord Chaitanya to an ocean of mercy, the Bhattacharya wrote, "Let me surrender unto the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu." The Lord, seeing the devotional service was absent, the descendant in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to preach devotional service. Let us all surrender unto his lotus feet and learn from him what the devotional service actually is. There is two important words are considered the most valuable jewel by the devotee of the Lord in disciplic succession. And by virtue of this famous verse, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has begun to know at his the highest of devotee. Thus, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was converted into one of the most important devotee of the Lord, and he had no other interest than to serve the Lord. His only concern was to think Lord Chaitanya constantly, and this meditation and chanting became a main purpose of his life. One day, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya came before Lord and offered his respect and began to recite one of the Lord Brahma prayer from Srimad Bhagavatam. Brahma prayer from Srimad Bhagavatam recite तत्पते नुकुस्पंस समीक्षमानो भुञ्जन् एवात्मकृतं विपाकं हृदि बक्बपुर्भिर्विधानं नमो ते जीवित्यो भक्तिपदेश दयोभक् दयाभक्. In reciting the verse, Bhattacharya changed the original word mukti, liberation, to bhakti, the devotional service in the last line. The meaning of the original verse is a person who devote his mind and body and speech to the service of the Lord, even though in the midst of miserable life caused by his post misdeed is assured of assured of liberation. Why? Why have you changed the original verse? The Lord asked Bhattacharya. The word is mukti and you have changed into bhakti. The Bhattacharya replied that the mukti is not as valuable as a bhakti and that mukti is actually a sort of punishment of the pure devotee. For this reason, he changed the word mukti to bhakti. The Bhattacharya then began to explain his realization of bhakti. Anyone who does not accept the transcendental personality of the Godhead and his transcendental form cannot know the absolute truth. One who does not understand the transcendental nature of body of Krishna become his enemy and decry him or fight with him. The destination of such enemy is to merge the Lord Brahman effulgence. Such mukti or liberation is never desired by the Lord's devotee. There are five kinds of liberation: gaining admission to the planet where the Lord reside; two, being able to associate with the Lord; three, attaining the transcendental body like the Lord; four, attaining the opulence like the Lord; five, merging into the existence of the Lord. A devotee has no particular interest in any of this type of liberation. He is satisfied simply by being engaged the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The devotee is specially adverse to merging into the existence of the Lord, losing his individual identity. Indeed, a devotee considered oneness with the Lord to be worse than hell, but he will accept one of four kind of liberation if it enable him to be engaged in service of the Lord. One out of two possibility of merging transcendence, namely becoming one with the impersonal Brahman effulgence and becoming one with the personality Godhead. The latter is more abominable to the devotee. The devotee has no aspiration other than engaging in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. On hearing this, Lord Chaitanya informed Bhattacharya that there is another meaning of the word Muktipada. The word Muktipada directly uh, indicate the personality of the Godhead. The personality Godhead has innumerable liberated soul engaged in a transcendental loving service, and he is ultimate resort of liberation. In either case, Krishna is the ultimate shelter. Despite this reading, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya reply, I prefer Bhaktipada to Muktipada. Although, according to you, there is a two meaning to the word Muktipada. Still, because this word is ambiguous, I prefer Bhaktipada to Muktipada because when one hears the word Mukti, he immediately think of becoming one with the Supreme. I, therefore, even hate to utter the word Mukti, but I am very enthusiastic to speak of Bhakti. At this, Lord Chaitanya laughed very loudly and embraced the Bhattacharya with great love. Thus, Bhattacharya, who had taken pleasure in explaining the Mayavadi philosophy, being such a staunch devotee that he hated even to utter the word mukti. This is possible only by the causeless mercy of the Lord Chaitanya. The Lord is like the touchstone, for by His grace He can turn iron into gold. After the Bhattacharya conversion, everyone marked a great change in him, and they concluded that this change was made by possible only by the inconceivable power of Lord Chaitanya. Thus, they took it for granted that Lord Chaitanya was none other than the Lord Krishna himself. Here we completed the chapter. The Bhattacharya converted. Now we have, we have made the insight. We have prepared the kind of insight from this purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and we have made the separate video presentation for you so that you can understand the kind of better way, and we have attaching this video presentation with this original one. Please stay tuned and watch till the end. Hare Krishna.
All right, let's dive into a story that's not just some dusty old philosophical text. It's this incredible, dramatic account of a man whose entire reality was completely shattered and then rebuilt, all because of one single conversation. So, at the heart of our story is this guy, Sarvabhauma Bhattacārya. I mean, think of him as the heavyweight champion of logic and scholarship of his time. His mind was like a fortress. But he was about to come face to face with a young mystic, Lord Caitanya, which set the stage for one of the most amazing intellectual and spiritual showdowns you can imagine.
Now, to really get what's going on here, you have to understand that these two are coming from completely opposite ends of the universe, philosophically speaking. This wasn't just a friendly debate, it was a total clash of worldviews.
I mean, look at the difference here. It's just night and day. On one side, you've got Bhaṭṭācārya, who believed the ultimate point of everything was to just dissolve, to become part of a formless, inactive nothingness. But on the other side, you have Lord Caitanya, who's saying, no, the spiritual world is vibrant, it's dynamic, it's full of a personal, loving relationship with a supreme person. You couldn't get two more different ideas.
Bhaṭṭācārya was a master of this school of thought, Mayavada, or impersonalism. The basic idea is that your individual self, your personality, it's all just an illusion, and the goal is to escape that personality, not to celebrate it. This was the logical fortress he'd built around his entire life.
So, with the philosophical battle lines drawn, these two began a debate that would go on for days. It was a debate that would become absolutely legendary.
And what's wild is that this whole massive intellectual war came down to just one thing: the interpretation of a single, very famous verse from the scriptures known as the Atmarama Shloka. Everything, absolutely everything, hung on how you read these few words.
So, Bhattacārya steps up to the plate first. He's on his home turf, right? He starts wielding his greatest weapons, super strict logic and a ridiculously precise analysis of grammar. He was ready to just academically take his opponent apart.
And he was brilliant, no doubt about it. Using his incredible intellect, he presented 9 completely different scholarly explanations for that one verse. It was a mind-blowing display of brain power.
But then it was Lord Chaitanya's turn, and he, calmly, quietly, offered 18 distinct explanations of that same verse, and he didn't even touch on a single one of the scholar's points.
You can just imagine the scene. The great Bhattacārya was just floored, stunned. His logical fortress had been completely and effortlessly dismantled. For the first time, probably in his entire adult life, he had nothing to say. He was speechless. And that was the exact moment his entire world started to crack.
See, this was about way more than just losing an argument. What happened next was the complete unraveling, and then the total remaking of a man. The whole process was just total. First, there's that stunned silence. Then, this incredible admission that he wasn't just in the presence of a clever debater, but of the divine itself. Then he starts trashing his own life's work, his own beliefs. And finally, in an act of complete surrender, he falls at Lord Caitanya's feet.
In the scholar's own words, man, they just capture it perfectly. He described himself as a cold, hard, unfeeling lump of iron, and he said he could feel himself being melted by a force he couldn't explain. And this internal melting started showing up on the outside in ways that just shocked everybody who knew him. This reserved, stoic, intellectual giant started crying, trembling, dancing in public, singing at the top of his lungs. The iron hadn't just melted, it was being reforged into something completely new. So this new emotional reality, it immediately started to clash with the rigid, rule-based life he had always lived. And that led to another really pivotal moment. So picture this. The very next morning, Lord Caitanya shows up with some secret food from the temple. Now, for the old Bhattacārya, there was a strict list of rituals you had to do before you ate anything. Bathing, prayers, the whole deal. But this new man, he just takes the food and starts eating, immediately. And he justifies it by quoting a higher principle, that divine grace trumps all the other rules.
Seeing this, Lord Caitanya basically declared mission accomplished. You see, he wasn't there just to win a debate. He was there to melt a heart of stone. And this simple act of just eating right away proved that he'd done it. The change was real.
But the ultimate proof, the final nail in the coffin of his old life, came when he confronted the very scriptures he had mastered, and he dared to change a single crucial word. So one day, he's reciting a prayer from memory. The verse, as it was written, clearly says that the goal for a spiritual seeker is muktipade, right? The path of liberation. That's the very same impersonal merging that he had taught his entire life.
But as he's reciting it, he pauses. And when he speaks that final line, he changes the one word he had known and taught for decades.
Instead of liberation, he says the goal is bhaktipade, the path of devotional service, the path of love. With that one word, he completely rejected his entire former philosophy. It was a total revolution.
So what was he rejecting? This idea of mukti, of liberation, it meant losing your identity, just merging into a formless, impersonal void. For the new Bhaṭṭācārya, that didn't sound like heaven at all. He now thought that state was actually worse than hell.
He said it himself, the word that was once his highest aspiration, mukti, he now hated even to say out loud. But in its place was bhakti, devotion, and that was a word he was suddenly excited to talk about. The transformation was absolutely complete.
And that leaves us with the central question of this entire incredible story, doesn't it? It really asks us to think about what the true purpose of a spiritual life is. Is the goal to disappear? Or is it to love? That's the question the scholar who melted forces every one of us to ask.